Hello and welcome to another episode of Fresh Thoughts. Today you join me kind of just by a field and the sun is going down. It's very picturesque and probably quite harsh lighting on my face. Today's fresh thought is I'm going to talk about how to focus, and particularly how do I focus just on a day-to-day basis. And for me that kind of means how I'm looking at the tasks and things I've got to do that day, and how the things that I'm doing that day are going to shape up to do other things. And now I feel like I'm quite a good person to talk about this, because throughout my whole entire life I found it very hard to focus on things. Like from primary school, it was just hard. Secondary school, no good, and then as an adult, even in my professional environment, I find it very hard to focus on the task in hand. And why do I think this is? Well, personally I think maybe because I've got a really good imagination, so when I was little I could just like daydream things and things would happen, and I would just find interesting things doing other stuff. But I think the foremost thing now as an adult, the biggest sort of temptation and the biggest sort of distraction is actually my mobile phone, and that's quite sad. But I think that's just how it is these days, which is what it is, I suppose. So the first thing to kind of note from what I've just said there is to focus more. You need to think about what you actually want, and I don't mean like what do you want in life, like you want to be married or have kids or whatever, but to focus on what it is you actually want to achieve right now. So the first thing, you don't want to set yourself too big, like I said, with your tasks. It's what am I doing right now? So it might be you're reading a book and you want to get to the end of that page, or you want to get to the end of that paragraph, or even get to the end of the book. Or you want to get to the end of this part of the job, or you want to finish doing this very particular thing that you're doing right now before you let any distractions come in way. Because the moment you kind of break for your distraction, you're losing the rhythm, you're losing the task, you're losing where you're going in your stride. So the first thing is to think about what your distractions are at that moment in time and what you're aiming to achieve. Then on the bigger grand scheme of things, think potentially the bigger thing, the bigger task, the bigger project that you might want to achieve. You may want to, I don't know, get the deposit for a house, or you may want to buy a house, or you may want to buy a car, or you may want to make a relationship with someone, or whatever. So you have to then think about those things and think about all the things that can stand in the way of those. So things that might stand in the way might be distractions such as just going and faffing about, just doing different pieces, maybe even just the anxiety of how big the task is or how big the project is that you're on. So you need to kind of just break everything down, break it down into its kind of binary elements. So what is this and what is this and what do these two create, and then just roll with it, and then you'll find that things become a lot easier. Once you kind of break everything down and break them into smaller things, the focus is a lot more easily achieved because it's less daunting. So that's something I actually do. So what I do is I think, well, I've got this massive job on, and it might be like loads of animated content, or right now loads of drawing that I've got to do, and all that kind of vibe, and it's a daunting thing. So it's very easy for me to let myself be distracted, because then it puts off actually having to do the big task. So instead of just thinking of it as this massive task, I think of it as loads of little tasks. So I think, okay, well, I've got to draw this person, or I've got to draw this one particular scene, and then I can progress. So how about I draw this one scene, get it all finished and coloured in, and then I'll have a break for my phone. And it's only natural that in this modern day and age, people need that break. People need that they need their fix of digital information and digital stuff. So it's fine, it's absolutely fine to stop and play on your phone, but it's to do it in moderation. Now, if you're doing 5 minutes of work and then an hour of phone, personally, I think that's a bad decision. That wouldn't be great, but maybe that works for you, I'm not sure. But I would advise to always try and make sure that the task is bigger than the break, if that makes sense, because that's how things progress, that's how things move forward, and that's how you become more productive, and that's how you grow. So to kind of summarise that a little bit, the main emphasis is don't let things get on top of you, because as soon as they get on top of you, it's really easy for you to break and easy for you to kind of just flow into that distraction, and it's easy for you to just lose the rhythm. And keeping into the rhythm of things, once you get into the rhythm of creating something, you have to keep rolling with it, you have to stick with it, because it's the rhythm that has all the creativity, it's the rhythm that has all the power that's going to enable you to progress and to finish the task in hand. And then it's also important, so rolling on from that, it's also important to remember the feeling of what it actually feels like when you can complete the task completely, because once you've completed the task, you get this really great reward of self-satisfaction, and that's a really key part of any project, is the actual finish. It might sound obvious, but it's easy to overlook that at the time, and it's easy to kind of get overwhelmed by just the scale of the things you've got on. Now, I'm talking about things particularly from my professional environment, but I think you can very easily translate these into personal things, and I'll kind of let you kind of take what you will from that. The next thing to think about is, what will you gain from finishing this task? And that's something I also like to do. I like to think to myself, well, if I actually complete this task, the reward is a lot bigger than what the reward is that I think it is. So the reward isn't necessarily, if it's for a job, the reward isn't necessarily a financial gain. The reward is much, much bigger than that. It's an educational gain. It's a personal gain. It's like this sense of achievement and accomplishment. And also this is potentially a stepping stone to somewhere else. So it's thinking of the rewards and making them realizing that the rewards are much bigger than the initial thing that you actually believe it to be. Because for me, that helps, because it makes it seem like it's great, I have to finish this thing, because it will make me feel good. So yeah, I think just for a real quick one tonight, because the sun's going down and I just wanted to squeeze out on the bike before it got dark, because I've just been stuck indoors all day today. So I hope there was a few really nice points in there for you guys. As always, it really helps me just getting it out. And until the next one, see you soon.